Yesterday, I talked about triggers, where they come from, why they show up, what they want, and what we are to do with them. Today, I want to talk about the most important piece for us as we move forward in our healing, why they show up. If we don't understand why triggers show up, either we will follow them blindly, which is a really bad plan, or we will silence them completely, which is a worse plan. Both of those options lead to more internal pain. We often experience times when we have an emotional reaction to a situation that we cannot explain. It just shows up, and all we know is that it means something important. We can't necessarily identify why it is here, but here it is. What we do next is crucial. What we are trained to do in narcissistic relationships, likely beginning in childhood, is to minimize, ignore, explain, justify. Over time, this has made us so disconnected from ourselves, and it's time to stop doing that so we can reconnect. We stop trusting our gut and we start outsourcing our reality when we do that. All of these behaviors send a very clear message to us and those around us. Our feelings are wrong or bad or too much. What if instead we simply noticed and believed it, believed ourselves? Instead of asking, am I overreacting? We ask, what does this remind me of? Triggers most certainly don't mean that how big the offense feels in the moment is accurate. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the other person did anything wrong. What it really does mean is that this is something familiar and it hurt me in the past. We might be tempted to deny that the relationship warrants any sort of trigger acknowledgement. Well, that would be erroneous. Any trigger is sending you a message. Even in the best of relationships, that doesn't automatically mean that you need to have a conversation about it. It always means that it needs to have attention given to it by you. But we are so used to ignoring how we feel that we sometimes just want to believe that the feelings we have are wrong. It's easier. And here's the truth, our feelings are never wrong. They may be bigger than the current situation warrants, but we won't know that unless we look at it. Stop denying your feelings, your triggers, you. In a past relationship, I was triggered quite a bit. I mentioned this briefly in my last video. Early in the relationship, I made my triggers the problem, and by proxy, myself. I realized that my triggers were sending me a clear message. This doesn't feel right. I stopped asking whether I was valid, if how I felt was valid, and I started asking whether I wanted to keep living that way, feeling that way. It wasn't until I acknowledged my feelings were valid for me that I was able to take control. I started accepting that even though this person wasn't doing anything wrong, I didn't like it. Now, this is the tricky part. This person wasn't a narcissist. Given that information and understanding that relational trauma heals in relationships, I offered this person the opportunity to step up and adapt to me for a change. I wasn't asking them to change. I was asking them to be aware of the things that caused me pain and make a conscious effort to avoid those things. There was a specific trigger for me around being like left out or finding out after the fact that plans had changed. I wasn't asking this person to change his life or restrict their choices. I was asking for intentionality, either a simple heads up or not putting me in a position where I discovered about it later. That level of consideration would allow me to stay regulated and present in the relationship instead of feeling blindsided. Win-win, right? Easy for him, easy for me. There's a balance to be struck when you accept that the person you're dating gets to be their own person, and so do you. Both are valid, and no one is the villain. And it still doesn't work. As I asked for their intentionality, their actual capacity and level of commitment was revealed. And it wasn't enough for me. Had I continued the path of allowing my triggers to be the problem and not how I felt in the relationship, who knows how long it would have gone on. But because I listened to myself and trusted that even though they weren't malicious, it still wasn't ever going to be able to meet my needs. Then I was able to walk away. Healing isn't about becoming less sensitive. It's about becoming more honest with yourself about what you can and cannot live with.